Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about the Dadeville, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, the Dadeville, Alabama shooting in astrology, how it may be connected with this, some transits at this time that may have had something to do with the chart itself of the shooting in general. Now, first thing I want to get at is I want to offer my prayers and condolences out to the close friends and family members of those that had died as a result of this heinous act, this mass shooting, and the ones that have gotten injured. There was a shooting over at a dance studio in Dadeville, Alabama on it was yesterday. It was on April 15, 2023. The approximate time I'm getting is 10:30 p.m. And the thing was somebody going in there, shot number of people. Again, 4 people died. As of right now, there's 4 that are confirmed dead, 28 injured. You have 32 people total that were at least injured, if not murdered. And right now, I think we're at a total of around 163 mass shootings, something like that. I don't know if that's an actual, confirmed amount or it's the total that they have. Is it at least 163? But I would say it's at least 160, 163, somewhere around there is what we're at in the mass shootings this calendar year in the United States, and that's in this country alone. I mean, this is deplorable to say the absolute least. I mean, something's got to be done. President Joe Biden, had given some commentary on this, and I understand. Naturally he's vehemently opposed to us, but what is actually going to be done about this? I mean, people are getting really tired of this. It's getting monotonous to say the absolute least. It's something like a general, like common occurrence. It's almost like like how we have the COVID in the United States. You notice that in recent time, over the last, year and a half at least or so, yes, we don't even really, people don't talk about it. It's almost like it's commonplace, like it's become acceptable. And I'm not saying people are perceiving mass shootings as acceptable, but it's at a point where people are almost like, they're anticipating, oh, okay, well, yeah, another mass shooting. Is there ever going to be anything done to really curtail this, or at least diminish this to some degree? I guess time will tell. But anyway, I want to get to as far as the chart goes on this. Okay, again, the shooting took place, April 15, 2023, 10:30 p.m. in Dadeville, Alabama. It puts Sagittarius at the ascendant position. It has the moon in Pisces, and the sun is in volatile Aries, conjunct Jupiter. And sadly, I've talked about this, but it's in the 5th house of children. And I don't know. I mean, this was the shooting took place at a dance studio where there was a party for it was a high school player's sister. It was a birthday party for her. So I'm thinking a lot of these people were teenagers that were at this. But anyway, you have, I'm going to go back to the, ascendant being in Sagittarius, which I guess we could perceive as the face of the event, of course, very reckless, foolhardy, doing whatever, he or she wants to do. I don't have any, as far as the shooter, whether he or she's been apprehended yet or not, I don't know. There was one report, I think it's on, I'm not sure the source, if it was Yahoo News or another source, that it stated that people wanted, law enforcement was begging for information regarding this. So I'm thinking they may not have apprehended the shooter, but that's just a guess. I don't know that for a fact. But anyway, Sagittarius, again, being on the ascendant, can be, the face of the event could be very foolhardy, reckless, somebody being over optimistic about what he or she's going to do, self-righteous. It's a kind of, and then you have, the sun being in volatile, truculent Aries, so it's really no shocker there. You have Jupiter conjunct the sun at this event. in the fifth house of children. And, as I've talked about in previous videos, Jupiter, could be very paradoxical, could be very strongly benign and benevolent, but it could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. This case is no exception. The fact that Jupiter is conjoining the Sun is like, the expansion of that focus on volatile actions, unfortunately. And also you have Chiron, which appears to be conjunct Jupiter, and that can, expand suffering, wounds, which can be physical ones. And, this is in volatile Aries, and Aries is also associated with gunfire. Another thing too about this, okay, you have the moon being in Pisces, so the emotions at this time can be, very, chaotic, convoluted, to say the absolute least. The Saturn conjoining the moon may have helped a little bit, but nonetheless, this was an event that was very, you had a lot of chaos, going on. The thing about this is, and you have Pisces on the fourth house cusp of emotional security, so something that was very chaotic, unfortunately, did impact emotional security. Neptune is in the fourth house, which really can reinforce and reaffirm this, but it also could show compassion toward family members as well at this time. And there's something I wanted to touch on, which can apply to this event and just in general, and it's something that I haven't, I don't believe I've stated in any of my previous videos. Some of you may know that Pluto has been in a sextile aspect to Neptune for some time, and it still is right now. And the fact that, Pluto is in that aspect to Neptune, I think, one way to, interpret that, I believe, is that it can reflect, that we're all, or almost all of us, it's a generational transit, that we're capable of compassionate support, whether the support is moral, emotional, or monetary. Pluto is about support. Neptune is about compassion, sacrifice, altruism. So this is where that comes into play. So it shows me that a lot of us may have more potential for that than most. And this can apply to this event, that people can show that support more to the grieving, families, especially the ones of the people that, the families of those that perish due to this heinous event. Now, another thing I noticed too was interesting looking at this event chart, that there's no planets in the fourth quadrant. The fourth quadrant consists of houses 10, 11, and 12, which I thought was a little unusual because, when you have, an event like this, you often, it comes with a lot of, altruism, humanitarianism, collective good from others to help the people out. But what I think maybe how this manifested, having no planets in that fourth quadrant in this event chart, it was like this shooting, again, like many others, is no regard for the feelings of society, how they could how an action could actually benefit humanity and society. And in this case, it certainly, we know obviously, ostensibly, it certainly didn't. And some other things to look at, well, the majority of the planets are on the bottom half of the chart, so it shows an event that you have a lot of subjective emotional energy where people, because of this event, maybe it might mean that they're going to be more introverted. As a guess, that could be a possibility. Where the thing about this is, you have also, only, and it, oddly enough, the only planet that's on the top half of the chart is Mars, and that's in the 8th house of murder. Sadly, you have Mars in its fall in Cancer, and it's opposing the second house cusp, which is Capricorn, and that second house is about values. And values, Capricorn, the second house cusp, is about valuing structure, discipline, restraint. And it's interesting you have Mars opposing this, being adversarial to this. And some other things I want to say before I forget about it is that as far as house rulers go, what's interesting, one thing, when I'm looking at this, the ruler of the first house, which is Jupiter, because Sagittarius is on the first house cusp, that falls in the fifth house of children, and that's where a lot of the focus of the event, is unfortunately, because I believe many of those people that were injured and killed, they were, if you want to say children, under, in high school, maybe, if you want to look at it like that, they could be seen as children, naturally. You also have the ruler of the eighth house, which is the moon, in the third house of early education. Eighth house is the house of death. Third house is early education. These can be kids in early education. I'm sure there were many high school students that were killed at this event, sadly. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that. I'm back, but anyway. And another thing, too, is that you have, what I noticed, too, the ruler of the 12th house. The 12th house is dancing. This was a, murders had taken place at this dance studio. Scorpio, the sign associated with death and murder, is on the 12th house cusp. And one of the rulers falls in the 8th house of death. And just try to see if there's anything else I wanted to get at. Another thing that I noticed in this event is that you have you have Venus and Gemini opposing the ascendant. Naturally, you have love, being people. This was not obviously an event. The face of the event was certainly not one that one was going to love, or enjoy, obviously by any means. And you have, Venus squaring Saturn. And Venus, I have that aspect natally in my chart. And Venus squaring Saturn can indicate, lack of self-worth, not feeling deserved of being loved. And, I'm thinking, this person, that was the shooter. Wonder if he or she may have been going through some issues of self-worth. Pluto is in the second house in this event chart, and that could indicate obliteration, of one's self-worth. This is, it's interesting. We have Pluto in Aquarius right now, it's going to be in there for a little bit longer, till like June or something, or July, and it's going to drift back, revert back into Capricorn for a little bit. Then next year, I believe it's going to be in Aquarius without going back into Capricorn again. But what I want to get is, I saw, there's one, some astrologer had something about, Pluto in Aquarius and how it may be manifesting as the death of humanity. I'm really beginning to wonder if we're going to see, an escalation or elevation of death just in general. More deaths per year than usual. Between, tornado activity, these mass shootings are escalating. I wouldn't be surprised, by the end of this year if we have, a number of mass shootings that are unprecedented in the United States as far as the yearly total goes. It's getting to a point where it's absolutely ridiculous. And what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to have more, armed security? Maybe police officers. I understand they only have, so many officers around. I don't know if I saw this right. It seems like there was something about where one state, or not even a state, but maybe a city in a state, was trying to defund. Maybe I don't know if it was, maybe it's defunding something with the police, but you may want to confer that on on the internet. I mean, there's talk, at least talks about it, I believe. And, I don't know if that could really impact, the amount of law enforcement, security at these places or not either. And that's something else you may need to look at. But the thing about this is, no matter how you look at it, it just seems like there's no end in sight with this. And people now, unfortunately, because of events like this, are in, almost like this constant, state of fear and trepidation. And I'm the kind of person I still, like I'm the kind of person I still want to live and do things on a day-to-day basis. But now, even like with me in the back of my mind, I'm going to be, a little bit concerned more when I go out to places because there's virtually no safe haven or safe place anymore for anybody. And after this, hearing about this, and there was one in my, my neck of the woods over in, in Nashville not too long ago. And there was somebody that even came out on, I saw it on, I think it was on a video on TikTok or something, or where somebody had, there was actual, it wasn't the news person, but somebody took over the news, just a regular civilian, basically said, aren't you guys tired of coming out here? I guess referring to the reporters having to come out and cover these heinous acts, cover these mass shootings. And of course, the answer is yes. I mean, I'm sure people are getting tired of it. But is that going to make a difference in this actually being eradicated or coming to an end anytime in the near future? And sadly, the answer may be resounding no. But I pray that I'm wrong and that there will be, some change and some reform somewhere where this is going to, it may never cease completely, but if we could at least derail this or at least diminish this activity to some degree. Again, my prayers do go out to the close friends and family of the victims, the ones that were murdered and the people that were seriously injured, and I hope that out of those like 28 people that were injured, I hope there's no life-threatening injuries to them. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.